dear students, myself Gangadhar Solanke, and I welcome you all to the MCGM's virtual classroom. Hello my dear students, today in Standard 10's History, we'll be learning the topic Historiography, Indian Tradition. In the first chapter, Historiography Development in the West, we people learnt about the concept of historiography, tradition of historiography, modern historiography, development of scientific perspective in Europe and historiography, and then the notable scholars and about their work in the field of historiography. For example, Karl Marx, then Leopold von Ranke, George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, and also some feminist historiographers in that Michael Foucault, then about the Annales School. Now in historiography, Indian tradition, we are going to learn about tradition of Indian historiography and Indian historiography, various ideological frameworks. Now we'll study this topic in the two parts. In the first one, we'll study about the tradition of Indian historiography, and in the second one, Indian historiography, various ideological frameworks. Now we are very clear with the concept of historiography that the writing of critical historical narrative is known as historiography, which is given in our first chapter. Again I am repeating the definition of the concept of historiography. The writing of critical historical narrative is known as historiography, and in detail I have explained you about this in the first chapter. Now the first point in our topic historiography, Indian tradition, we learnt about the Western tradition of historiography in the first lesson, and now in this lesson we will know about the tradition of Indian historiography. In the ancient period in India, memories of the great deeds of ancestors and mythological lore, also memories of social transitions were preserved with the help of recitals, which played very important role in giving information about the history, or in giving details about that particular period, or in saying something about the traditions or the customs of that particular period. So the recitals or the vocal sources or the oral sources, which are very important whenever we talk about the Indian history or any other history or of the any other part of the world's history. Oral sources always play very important role, but here especially when we talk about India, then we all know that in the ancient period in India, memories of the great ancestors, जैसे हमारे बहुत पुराने एंसिस्टर्स जैसे राजा महाराजा हुआ करते थे, उसके पहले भी जो भी हमारी कल्चर थी वो सब चीज़ें, एंड मैथोलॉजिकल लोर जिसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें इंक्लूड है, रिलीजियस थिंग्स, एंड ऑल्सो memories of social transitions were preserved with the help of oral recitals. And today also in different functions or in different festivals, we are having number of rituals which are directly connected with our ancestors, or which have reference of our ancestors or about the area from where we are. तो ये सारी चीज़ें जो है हमारे फेस्टिवल्स में दिखती है, हमारे शादियों के जो तौर तरीके हैं उसमें दिखती है, और जो सोशल ट्रांजिशंस हुए हैं वो भी हमारे बहुत सारे फोक सॉन्ग्स में, फोक आर्ट में हमें दिखते हैं. नाउ नॉट ओनली दिस, बट द इंस्क्रिप्शंस ऑन द हड़प्पन seals and other artifacts confirm what it confirmed. It confirmed that Indians had mastered the art of writing as early as the 3rd millennium BCE, or perhaps before that. Now by studying the inscriptions or by observing the inscriptions or the things which were mentioned by the scholars, by studying all these artifacts, ये बात कंफर्म हुई है कि 3rd मिलेनियम BC या फिर उसके पहले भी इंडियंस के पास लिखने की कला थी, लिखने के बारे में वो सब जानते थे. They were having their own script. However, the Harappan script is not yet successfully डेसिफर्ड, पूरी तरह से उसे डिकोड नहीं किया गया है, सारी की सारी चीज़ें जैसी है वैसी पढ़ने नहीं आ रही है, बट हम ये तो कह सकते हैं कि उस वक्त लोगों को लिखना आता था एंड डिड दिस फॉर वेरियस पर्पजेस और ऑन डिफरेंट things, and the inscriptions were the best example of this. Then the next one, now we are talking step by step here. First we talked about the oral recitals, then the inscriptions, and now the earliest known written documents of historical nature found in India are in the form of inscriptions. written form का अगर कुछ हिस्ट्री में मिला है हमारे देश के, इंडिया के, it was the inscription, and they are dated to the 3rd century BE. Sorry, it's BCE. They are dated the 3rd century BCE. That is Emperor Ashok Maurya's times. You people may heard about the Ashoka, Samrat Ashoka or the Ashok Maurya, and you people already learned about this in the 6th standards history. So the first Ashokan pillar there on the screen, you can see here, his edicts are inscribed on natural rocks and stone pillars for the people. उन्हें समझने के लिए आसानी हो, उन्हें वो दिखे ऐसी जगह पे उन्हें लिखा गया था. And that is why we can say that it was started early in the Indian history. From the 1st century CE, inscriptions begin to occur on coins, metal images and sculptures, and also on copper plates. Now here you can see edicts of Ashoka. वो सिर्फ एक पिलर नहीं बल्कि अलग अलग जगहों पे अशोका के एडिक्ट्स से, मेजर रॉक एडिक्ट्स, इन दैट दिस वन गिरनार, देन द एरीगुडी, दिस वन सनाथी, देन धौली, जोगाड़ा, एंड pillar edicts. Here you can see in the triangle shape, this one at Lumbini. Then minor rock edicts here, here, and the territorial limits, this one, उसकी जो kingdom की boundary थी वो है ये. But by this we can understand कि कितनी ज़्यादा पैमाने पर ये लिखे गए थे या फिर यूज़ हुआ था इन सब चीज़ों का. And then from the 1st century CE, inscriptions begin to occur not only on the pillars or on the different things like rock, but begin to occur on coins, metal images and sculptures, and also on copper plates. We get to know about the dates of various kings, then the dynastic genealogies, territorial extent and administration of various empires and kingdoms, and also important political events, social organization, climate, famines, etc. of the respective times. So in short, we can say that we are talking about the sources of history which gives us information about that particular period, and in that the inscriptions on the coin, metal images played very important role because it gives us very important information like dates of various kings, कौन से साल तक कौन से साल में कौन सा राजा कहाँ पे था, डायनेस्टिक जीनियोलॉजीज, उस पर उनके घरानों के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन थी, किंग, फिर उसका बेटा, फिर उसका बेटा, वो भी है. फैमिन्स, अगर ऐसी कुछ नेचुरल डिज़ास्टर हुआ है और उससे लोगों को बहुत नुकसान पहुंचा है. नॉट ओनली दिस बट द पॉलिटिकल इवेंट्स बड़े बड़े अगर हुए हैं, जैसे आज भी कहीं पर बहुत बड़ा पॉलिटिकल इवेंट होता है या फिर सोशल फेस्टिवल, सोशल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस होते हैं, तो लोग बैनर लगाते हैं. नाउ वी आर हैविंग सोशल मीडिया, जैसे व्हाट्सएप है, फेसबुक है, उस पर फोटो डालना, पोस्ट लिखना. उस वक्त ये सारी चीज़ें नहीं थी, बट जो था वो भी लोगों ने किया है. फॉर एग्जांपल इंस्क्रिप्शन, फिर पॉलिटिकल इवेंट्स के बारे में हमें पता चल रहा है, सोशल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के बारे में पता चल रहा है, क्लाइमेट के बारे में हमें पता चल रहा है, इफ़ फैमिन वर देयर वेरी वर्स्ट उसके बारे में हमें पता चल रहा है. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स were very important, and we are knowing these things because of the skill of writing. The ancient Indian literature, including the epics Ramayana and Mahabharata, Purana, Jain and Buddhist texts, historical accounts by Indian authors, and also travelogues by foreign travelers are important sources of history. Not only inscriptions, but in the next stage, ancient Indian literature played a very important role in giving the information of that period. But before that, there on the screen you can see Sohagora copper plate. The copper plate was found at Sohagora district, Gorakhpur in Uttar Pradesh. It is supposed to be from the Mauryan period. Again, from the Mauryan period. The inscription on it is in Brahmi script. जैसे आज हम हिंदी लिखते हैं, मराठी लिखते हैं, इंग्लिश लिखते हैं, and for that we are using different scripts. For example, Hindi and Marathi we are using Devanagari script. Like that, this one is Brahmi script. The symbols known as tree in railing and mountain at the beginning, this one tree in railing, then the mountain in the beginning of the inscription also occur on punch marked coins. Another symbol which looks like a structure erected on 4 pillars is supposed to be this one, supposed to be indicative of granary. The inscription records royal order, जो राजा है उसकी तरफ से जो order दी गई. Same here now, we'll compare if this with the today's administrative system. जैसे गवर्नमेंट को लोगों को कुछ बताना होता है तो गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से कुछ पेपर निकलते हैं, जीआर निकलते हैं, टीवी में ऐड दी जाती है और लोगों को बताया जाता है कि ऐसा ऐसा होने वाला है, ये हो रहा है, वी आर डूइंग दिस एंड दैट फॉर द पीपल. वैसे ही ऐसे लग रहा है कि एक रॉयल ऑर्डर है, एक राजा ने निकाली हुई लोगों के लिए. द इंस्क्रिप्शन रिकॉर्ड्स अ रॉयल ऑर्डर दैट द ग्रेन्स स्टोर्ड इन द ग्रैनरी शुड बी डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड केयरफुली. जो लोगों को देने हैं वो केयरफुली डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होने चाहिए, इक्वली डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होने चाहिए विदाउट एनी चाउस. सो दिस was a royal order. Now here on the screen you can see the ancient Indian literature, including the epics of Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas, then the Jain and Buddhist texts, historical accounts by Indian authors, and also travelogues by foreign travelers are very important, because in that also we have information which gives us the social structure of that particular period, that the social customs and traditions of that particular period, or in short we can say the nature of the people, how they were living. Writing of biographies of kings and dynastic histories mark an important step in the Indian historiography. If we people study the medieval Indian history, then we can find number of people who wrote about the kings and about the kingdom and about the dynastic histories. So here when you talk about Indian historiography, then writing of biographies of kings and dynastic histories mark an important step. Harshacharit, here you can see the Harshacharit of Banabhatta, written in the 7th century CE by Banabhatta, is King Harsha's biography. तो जो अलग अलग राजाएँ हुआ करते थे और उनके दरबार में ये अलग अलग लोग हुआ करते थे, जैसे राइटर है, म्यूज़िक से रिलेटेड लोग हैं, तो ये सारे क्या करते थे, अपना अपना काम भी करते थे और उस राजा के बारे में, उस वक्त की समाज व्यवस्था के बारे में लिखा करते थे. तो उस वक्त व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट इंडियन हिस्टोरियोग्राफी, तो ऐसे राजाओं की बायोग्राफीज लिखना एक ट्रेंड था, या फिर उस दरबार में जो भी लोग थे वो लिखने का काम करते थे. सो हर्षचरित, written in the 7th century CE by Banabhatta, is King Harsha's biography. It portrays a realistic picture. What it portrays? It portrays a realistic picture of the social, economic and political, religious and cultural life during the king's times. Now one more thing here which is very important to understand is that it may be written under pressure. Maybe I am saying not exactly. कभी कभी क्या होता था कि कोई स्कॉलर किसी राजा के यहाँ पे है, राज आश्रय जिसे कहा जाता था, वहाँ पर है, तो उसे राजा के बारे में अच्छी चीज़ें लिखनी पड़ती थी, बट नॉट सेम इन ऑल द केसेस. फिर भी उस राजा के बारे में पढ़ते पढ़ते उस वक्त का जो सोशल स्ट्रक्चर है, उस वक्त की जो सोशल, इकोनॉमिक, पॉलिटिकल, रिलीजियस, कल्चरल लाइफ है, उसके बारे में हमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें पता चलती है. एंड दैट इज़ वाई हियर द वर्ड रियलिस्टिक इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. What the Harsha Charita portrays? It portrays a realistic picture of the social, economic, political, religious and cultural life during the king's times. Now next one, historiography in the medieval period. Now we are going to talk about the medieval historiography, and in that the first one on the screen you can see Raj Tarangini. The style of writing Raj Tarangini, the history of Kashmir by Kalana in the 12th century CE is quite close to the concept of modern historiography. कल्हाना ने लिखा हुई राज तरंगिनी जो है अ क्रॉनिकल ऑफ द किंग्स ऑफ कश्मीर, कश्मीर में जितने भी किंग होके गए उनके बारे में इसमें इंफॉर्मेशन है, एंड विच इज़ द बेस्ट एग्जाम्पल ऑफ द हिस्टोरियोग्राफी, और विच इज़ वेरी close to the modern historiography. Kalana himself says that he wrote this text after critically examining various sources like inscriptions, coins, remains of ancient monuments, dynastic records and local traditions. That is why we can say that the Raj Tarangini is the authentic book or authentic source to study about the medieval period of the Kashmir. And why we can say that? Because Kalana himself says that before writing he researched a lot. उसने बहुत सारी चीज़ों के बारे में पढ़ा. Critically examining, he critically examined the remains of the ancient monuments, dynastic records और local traditions. लोगों से जाके पूछा, डायनेस्टिक रिकॉर्ड जहाँ जहाँ मिलते हैं उनको देखा, इंस्क्रिप्शंस के बारे में जानकारी ली, और उन सबको लेके, उन सब के रेफरेंस लेके फिर ये बुक लिखा. देन इन द मेडिवल इंडिया the historians in the courts of Muslim rulers were influenced by Arabic and Persian historiography, and that's why they wrote the things or they followed them. And among them the Ziauddin Barani holds an important place in Tariq-e-Firuz Shahi. On the screen you can see Tariq-e-Firuz Shahi, Ziauddin Barani Sims. A book written by him. He has stated the purpose of historiography in this book, and what he wrote, on the screen you can see, according to him, the historian's duty is not limited only to the recording of the ruler's value and policies of welfare. Now very clear thing he is mentioning here. एक हिस्टोरियन की ड्यूटी सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि वो राजा के बारे में लिखे, राजा ने कौन कौन सी लड़ाई लड़ी, कौन कौन सी लड़ाइयाँ जीती उसके बारे में लिखे, सिर्फ लोगों के लिए कौन कौन सी पॉलिसीज़ उसने स्टार्ट की उसके बारे में लिखे, बट he should also write about the ruler's failings and incorrect policies. Very correct thing or very important thing he wrote here, or the important thing about the historiography or about writing history. It is not the duty of any historian to write or to record the ruler's value and the policies of welfare, but he should also write about the ruler's failing. अगर वो युद्ध में नहीं जीता है, फेल हुआ है, तो उसके बारे में भी लिखना चाहिए, और अगर उस राजा ने कुछ इनकरेक्ट पॉलिसीज़ भी लाई है जिसकी वजह से लोगों का बहुत नुकसान हुआ है, उसके बारे में भी एक हिस्टोरियन को लिखना ज़रूरी है. Barani further says that a historian should also take into consideration the impact of the teachings of the wise, the learned, and the sense on the cultural life, the learn and the sense on the cultural life of people, and thus Barani expanded the scope of historiography. So, not only he was talking about the writing of the historiography, but at the same time he was guiding the writers to whom follow or what to write. जो अच्छे लोग हैं, वाइज पीपल है, जो पढ़े लिखे हैं और जो संत है, उनका भी थॉट लेना चाहिए, उनको भी पूछना चाहिए वाइल राइटिंग, या फिर उनके जो ओपिनियन है वो भी इम्पॉर्टेंट है वाइल राइटिंग हिस्ट्री. For the historians in the Mughal courts, praising the emperors and exhibition of loyalty became more important. Now, before that, on the screen you can see Al-Biruni wrote an Arabic about Indian knowledge and social life. In the following period, many books about India were written by foreign scholars, and among them, to name a few, are on the screen you can see Hasan Nizami's Tajul Masir, then Mina Zaisira's Tabaqat-in-Nisri, various works by Amir Khusro, Tuzuki Timuri, the autobiography of Temur Elang, who was also known as Amir Temur, who invaded India, Tarikh-e-Mubarak Shahi by Yahya bin Ahmad Sirendi. Their accounts provide us with historic information of Sultanate period. Accounts of foreign travelers. Now, not only these, the people who were in the courts of the kings or in the service of the kingdom, accounts of foreign travelers in India are also important, and among them Ibn Battuta, Abdul Razak, Marco Polo, Niccolo Conti, Barbosa, and Domingo Pais. Their accounts provide us with historic information of medieval India. If we want to learn the things about medieval India, or if we want something authentic about the medieval India, then we can read the books written by these scholars or by these travelers. Ishwar Das Nagar, Bhimsen Saxena, Kafi Khan, and Niccolo Manucci were among the historians of Aurangzeb's time, whose accounts are important source of Mughal history. So, it depends which period you have to study or about which you want information, and then you can find out that particular person or the book of that particular person to know more about it. So, if we want to learn about the Mughal history, then we can go for the books of Ishwar Das Nagar, or for Bhimsen Saxena, Kafi Khan, or Niccolo Manucci. Now, for the historians in the Mughal courts, praising the emperors and exhibition of loyalty became more important, and this was the very bad thing we can say about the history or about the historiography. जब किसी राइटर को ऐसा लगता है कि मुझे सिर्फ राजा की अच्छाई के बारे में लिखना है, या फिर किसी ने राजा के बारे में अच्छा लिखा तो मुझे उससे अच्छा लिखना है, ये कंपटीशन जब शुरू हो जाता है, तब जो सही हिस्ट्री है, जो ट्रूथ है हिस्ट्री में, वो नहीं आता है. The custom of adding suitable poetic quotes and beautiful pictures was also introduced during that period. Babur, the founder of the Mughal Empire, wrote an autobiography entitled Tuzuk-e-Babri. Tuzuk-e-Babri, Babur ने लिखी autobiography of Babur. It contains the description of the battles fought by him. जितनी भी लड़ाइयाँ उसने लड़ी उसके बारे में इसमें information है. Babur also recorded his minute observations of various regions and cities travelled by him, including the local economy, customs, and the flora. In geography, people are studying about the flora and fauna of India and of the Brazil. तो बाबर लड़ाई के लिए जब एक जगह से दूसरी जगह, दूसरी से तीसरी जगह गया, while travelling from one place to another place, he wrote many things, and all the things were mentioned in the Tuzuk-e-Babri. Then Abul Fazl's Akbarnama is very important from the viewpoint of critical historiography. When we use this word critical, which is very important. Abul Fazl's Akbarnama is very important from the viewpoint of critical historiography. His method of collecting authentic historical documents and their scrutiny is looked upon as devoid of bias and hence realistic. So it should not be bias. जैसे पहले मैंने कहा कि जब राजा की बढ़ाई करने के लिए कोई हिस्टोरियन लिखता है तो उसे रियलिस्टिक नहीं माना जा सकता, ऑथेंटिक नहीं माना जा सकता, या फिर बायस्ड थिंकिंग हो सकती है राइटर की. Now the next one, Bakhar is an important type of historical documents of medieval times. If you want to study about the medieval Indian history, or especially the medieval history of the Maratha Empire or the Maratha Kingdom, then Bakhar is the best option to go for. It contains eulogies of the heroes and stories of historic events, battles, then the lives of great men. Marathi Bakhars are of various types. Sabhasad Bakhar was written by Krishnaji Anant Sabhasad. Krishnaji Anant Sabhasad wrote Sabhasad Bakhar during the reign of Chhatrapati Rajaram Maharaj. It is an important Bakhar for getting information about the rule of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Then Bhau Sahibanchi Bakhar, here you can see, describes the battle of Panipat. Another Bakhar entitled Panipatachi Bakhar is also about the same event. Here you can see Bakhar of Panipat. Holkaranchi Kaifiyat provides information about the Holkars and their contributions to the Maratha rule. So especially when we want to learn about the medieval Maharashtra or the medieval rulers of Maharashtra, then we can go to the Bakhars, जिसमें बहुत सारी important चीज़ें हमें पता चलती है. Bakhars can be divided into various types such as biographies of kings, जिसमें किसी एक पर्टिकुलर किंग के बारे में लिखा जाता है. Then the dynastic history, जैसे शिवाजी महाराज की पूरी फैमिली हिस्ट्री. Then the description of events, for example like of the पानीपत. पानीपताची बखर में सारा इवेंट जो है, लड़ाई जो है, उसके बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन है. हिस्ट्री ऑफ अ सेक्ट, ऑटोबायोग्राफीज रिगार्डिंग ग्रीवेंस बेस्ड ऑन माइथोलॉजीज एंड स्टेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन बाय अ किंग. ऑल दिस थिंग्स वर इंक्लूडेड इन द बखर. द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, historiography in the modern period. We talked about the medieval period and now about the modern period. In the 20th century, the Indian archaeological exploration and research started under the British rule. You people already studied about this. A number of ancient sites were excavated under the supervision of Sir Alexander Cunningham, the first Director General of the आर्कियोलॉजिकल सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया. फर्स्ट डायरेक्टर जनरल अलेक्जेंडर कनिंघम. बहुत सारी साइट्स इंडिया में अलग अलग जगह पे शुरू हुई एक्सकेवेशंस की तब. ही चोज मेनली द साइट्स मेंशन्ड इन द बुद्धिस्ट टेक्स्ट फॉर दिस पर्पज. हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन वॉज डिस्कवर्ड ड्यूरिंग द टेन्योर ऑफ सर जॉन मार्शल, जिसके बारे में आज भी हम बहुत बात करते हैं. जब हमें हिस्ट्री के बारे में पढ़ना होता है तो हम हड़प्पा को छोड़ के हिस्ट्री के बारे में नहीं पढ़ सकते. वहीं से हमारा जो कल्चर है वो शुरू हो जाता है, वहीं से हमें बहुत सारी इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलती है. सो इट वाज स्टार्टेड अंडर द लीडरशिप ऑफ जॉन मार्शल. हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन वाज डिस्कवर्ड ड्यूरिंग द टेन्योर ऑफ सर जॉन मार्शल. बिकॉज ऑफ हिज work or because of this discovery, the antiquity of Indian history could be traced to 3rd millennium BCE or even earlier. अगर ये नहीं होता तो शायद एक बहुत बड़ी हिस्ट्री जो है हमारे देश की वो दुनिया के सामने नहीं आती, और जो हिस्टोरिकल ग्लोरी जिसे कहते हैं वो भी हमें पता नहीं चलती. Many British officials in India wrote about Indian history. Their writings display strong influence of the colonial policies of the British. Now, whenever any writer writes something, then the things which play very important role in that are the surroundings or the upbringing of the writer और द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू वी कैन से. अगर कोई ब्रिटिश आदमी है, ब्रिटिश राइटर है और वो अगर इंडिया के बारे में लिखेगा तो हो सकता है कि वो पूरी तरह से रियलिस्टिक ना लिख पाए. ही विल ट्राई टू डू दैट, लेकिन जो एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू होता है कि वो उसी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से लिखेगा. एंड अबाउट दैट वी आर टॉकिंग अगेन एंड अगेन क्रिटिकल राइटिंग, कि सारी बायस थिंकिंग, प्रेजुडाइज माइंड को अलग रख के एक रियलिस्टिक लिखना. About that we are talking. 3 volumes of the history of British India. Here on the screen you can see the history of British India, written by James Mill, were published in 1817. This was the first book on Indian history written by a British historian. After that बहुत सारे लोगों ने लिखा, बहुत सारे ब्रिटिशर्स ने इंडियन हिस्ट्री के बारे में लिखा, लेकिन ये पहला बुक था द हिस्ट्री ऑफ ब्रिटिश इंडिया रिटन बाय जेम्स मिल इन 1817. इट क्लियरली रिफ्लेक्ट्स एन absence of objective perspective and prejudice about various aspects of the Indian culture. Then the history of India written by Mount Stuart Elphiston, governor of Bombay, was published in 1841. The history of India. On the screen you can see Mount Stuart Elphiston. तो पहला बुक जो है 1817 में लिखा गया by James Mill, The History of British India, and then in 1841 The History of India by Mount Stuart Elphiston. Next thing, the period of Maratha Empire is very important in the Indian history. About that you people already learnt in the 7th standards history, then in 8th standards history also. Grand Duff's name stands out among the British officers who wrote about Maratha history. He wrote the book entitled A History of Marathas. On the screen you can see Volume 1, James Grand Duff, A History of Marathas. This book is published in 3 volumes. Grand Duff's writing also shows the British inclination of condemning Indian culture and history. Similar tendency is witnessed in colonial thoughts. Here this one about Rajasthan's history. Annals and Antiquities of Rajasthan by James Todd and William Crook. The 2 volumes written by William Wilson Hunter on Indian history show a somewhat impartial treatment of the subject. And then next, Nilkant Janardhan Kirtane and Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade. Now we are talking about the Indian writers. Nilkant Janardhan Kirtane and Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade were 2 Indian historians who took upon the task of exposing the limitations of Grand Duff's writing. Now again I am repeating the same thing. जब कोई ब्रिटिश राइटर इंडिया के बारे में लिख रहा था, इंडिया में जो ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट है उसके बारे में लिख रहा था, तो हो सकता है कि वो उतनी बुरी चीज़ें जो यहाँ पर चल रही है वो ना लिख पाए बिकॉज ऑफ हिज कंसर्न विद दैट पर्टिकुलर कंट्री. तो उसमें जो ब्लॉक होल्स रह गए, उसमें जो लिमिटेशंस थी या फिर कहीं पर बयास थिंकिंग से, प्रिजुडाइज थिंकिंग से लिखा गया है, उसको लिखने का काम, उसको ठीक करने का काम नीलकंठ जनार्दन कीर्तने और वीका राजवाड़े इन्होंने किया. आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि एग्जैक्टली ऐसा ही हुआ कि रियलिस्टिक हिस्ट्री सामने नहीं आई, ऑथेंटिक नहीं है, बट इन सम केसेस इट हैपन्ड एंड फॉर दैट वी हैव टू रेफर द 2 or 3 बुक्स ऑन वन सब्जेक्ट और वन टॉपिक. किसी एक टॉपिक पे जब हिस्ट्री लिखी जाती है तो हमें सिर्फ एक बुक को नहीं पढ़ना चाहिए फॉर द बेटर अंडरस्टैंडिंग और टू नो द ट्रूथ. इट इज़ always very important to refer 2 or 3 books on one subject or on any one topic. That is what we call critical analysis or critical history writing or historiography. So Nilkant Janardhan Kirtane and Vishwanath Kasinath Rajbade were two Indian historians who took upon the task of exposing the limitations of Grand Dup's writing. So here today we are going to stop. In the next part of this topic we'll learn about Indian historiography, various ideological frameworks, and in that colonial historiography, Orientalist historiography, nationalistic historiography, then the historiography in the post independence era, Marxist history, then the subaltern history, feminist history. Please subscribe the channel and press bell icon to get notifications. So my dear students, this is all for today. Thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, take care.